Welcome to another edition, another episode of the MIL Day podcast. I am your host, Carlos Ledo. Welcome back for the adventure, my friends. And yes, just like that thumbnail says, the season is on the line for the Miami Hurricanes against the North Carolina Tarheels. Why do I say that? Why do I say that so early in the season? You guys know why. You know why, right? After that loss to Middle Tennessee, the Hurricanes do not look like a contender for the ACC championship. If they are to get back in the race, if they are to have some confidence going into the rest of the season, if they want to rally the fan base and have some belief in them going forward, they have to win this game on Saturday. There is no other option for the Miami Hurricanes. If you start 0-1 in the conference, in the conference and in the division, and lose 3 in a row, including one to Middle Tennessee, the Blue Raiders, all right? They should have been called the Blue Ball Raiders because they barely scored against anybody else, but they damn sure got their rocks off against us, right? Okay, that was a little dirty. I apologize, but I think it was worthwhile. Anyway, moving on. This game is pivotal. It is probably one of the biggest games that Mario Cristobal has ever coached in because he's playing not for a championship of some sort. He's not playing for a bowl championship. He is playing for the soul of his team, for the soul of his locker room. He's playing for the survival of his culture the rest of this season. It could easily turn out that the Hurricanes get blown out in this game and they end up winning 4 or 5 games total this season. Because if they lose to North Carolina and they go into a tailspin, probably not looking good against Florida State. Probably not going to be favored on the road to Virginia Tech, even though Virginia Tech is dog shit. So, I don't know. May beat them. Probably not going to be favored against Duke. Duke is balling right now, right? Undefeated. Well, 1 loss to Kansas. Undefeated in the conference. It's going to be a toss-up against Georgia Tech, toss-up against Virginia. They're not going to beat Clemson, right? If they lose this game to North Carolina. They may not beat Clemson anyway, but if they do beat Carolina, at least there's some confidence moving forward that this team can rally and win the Coastal. The famous words, the rallying cry of Al Golden, the tie. We can still win the Coastal. Everything is in front of us. Everything is in front of us, right? The Coastal's there. By the way, I don't have a tie on, but I got to be a little professional here. The MIL Day podcast polo, designed by my wife, Love and Light Couture on Instagram. If you want to check her out, I'll try and spell that at the end for you. But please check her out, Love and Light Couture on Instagram. Does great customized work. This is the first shirt she's made for me because she's been so busy that she's prioritizing paying customers instead of me, but whatever. Anyway, so what am I going to do today? How are we going to talk about this upcoming game? Is there a solution or are there some answers that we can get? Well, we're going to break down North Carolina. We're going to look at this game and we're going to see what the hell happens, man. Because that's what we do around here. We're troopers. We hang in there. Let's get it. All right, man. Here we have it. Like we said on the thumbnail, Canes versus UNC. Miami's season on the line. My traditional sip of Diet Coke as we get this thing started. And how about the production value, huh? A nice little PowerPoint here put together by your boy. Looking like a 4th grader put it together. But hey, man, it's got to be like a gifted 4th grader, right? I'll take that. So let's get started. What do we got going on here? The North Carolina offense, the vaunted North Carolina offense. How good is this offense? Well, let's take a look at the numbers. They are number 6 in FBS right now in total offense. They are averaging 507.2 yards per game. I don't think the Hurricanes have come up with 507 yards in the last 2 games. These dudes are doing it per game. That's pretty serious. They are number 7 in yards per play, 7.25 yards per play. That means they are almost getting a first down every time they snap the ball. Again, impressive. They are tied for 6th in FBS at 45.4 points per game. Again, Hurricanes didn't score 45 points the last 2 games combined. So what does that mean for the Hurricanes? Are we in trouble now? I think we might be. But we'll see. Let's keep it moving. So what's at the heart of this Carolina offense, right? What's the driving engine? Who's the guy behind it? Who do we have to murder before the game? No, I'm just kidding. We shouldn't do that kind of stuff. I shouldn't play like that. It's not a joke. But who's the guy that's making it all go and making the difference? And it's Drake May. So let's take a look at some of the season totals for Drake May and see why he's been so special or what makes him so special. So he's thrown for 1,594 yards in 5 games. That's basically, over 300 yards a game, if your math is good. Mine is not that good, but it's good enough. 69.7% completion percentage. I think he went 0.7% over the perfect number, but hey, that's just me. Almost 70%. You know what that is? Dialing it up on 70% of your throws are being completed, and you're still putting up over 300 yards a game. He's not dinging and dunking. This dude's throwing it all over the field. He's spraying the freaking ball. He's like a sprinkler out there, and it's being completed 70% of the time. Don't you wish we had something like that right now? 19 touchdowns, 1 interception. How's that for a ratio? Right? First 5 games. Okay. 19 touchdowns, 1 interception. That is insane production. He's averaging almost 4 touchdowns a game. All right. 187.6 quarterback rating. The guy's lighting it up right now. He's also got 255 yards rushing. If you didn't know, my boy can move. Drake May is not a statue. Drake May is athletic. He averages 4.9 yards per carry, and they happen to play better on offense when he's getting it going with his legs as well. What else do we know about Drake May? Well, let's take a look deep inside the numbers of how this guy's collecting this yardage and completing all these passes and getting all these touchdowns. In the 20-plus range, meaning on throws 20-plus yards down the field, Drake May is 17.6% of all of his attempts are 20 yards or more. To give you some perspective, right now, Tyler Van Dyke is averaging only 9% of his throws at 20 yards or more. Last year, he was more of a gunslinger. He averaged actually 20% of his throws 20 yards or more downfield. But the percentage of throws at 20 yards or more is not the crazy thing about Drake May. That's the standard average number. This is the crazy thing. He's completing 62% of his passes 20-plus yards down the field. How is that possible? That is insane. Usually you see guys around 50 to 40%, and that's high for those deep shots. This guy's completing 62% of his deep shots. All right. 567 yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 pick in that range. 35% of his yardage comes from these deep throws. Okay. 35%. And he's only going there about 18% of the time. Incredible. His average depth of target, that means the average depth of where he's throwing the ball down the field, the guys that he's hitting with the ball, is 29.6 yards. So basically, when he's going 20 plus, on average, it's at least going about 30 yards down the field. In the air, not after the play. This is just ball from his hand to the receiver's hand, 30 yards. 17 of 29, 58.6%, of his deep shots are in the middle of the field. He likes to work the center of the field. This is something we've seen from Carolina. Saw it last year. Pitt liked to do this a lot too. They like to work the deep shots and deep crosses, post patterns, things of that nature. What else do we know about Drake May? Well, on no play action, straight drop back, he's completing 64.2% of his attempts. He's completing, he's got 881 yards and 10 touchdowns on straight dropbacks, 0 interceptions. All right. He's got completing 71.4%. Wow, where did this number come from? That is my fault. Oh, 6. Okay, I got you now. See, here's what happens. We try to get too analytical, and your lytics in analyzing, you get a problem. So 64% of his attempts are straight dropbacks. Do we have that now? So 64% of his passes are dropbacks, no play action, none of that stuff. Okay, he's completing 71.4% of those passes at 8.4 yards per attempt. He's got 881 yards and 10 touchdowns in straight dropbacks. My God, that was such a brain fart. Thank you for sticking with me. When he's under pressure, he's only been pressured 38.8% on his dropbacks, or anytime he's dropped back to throw, whether it's play action or regular, he's only been pressured 38.8% of the time. He's got a 49.1% completion percentage there. So we see the drop under pressure. This is the one chink in his armor. This is his kryptonite. This is his Spanish fly. This is the Brazilian chick on Brickell that's trying to pick up the white boy and take all his money and steal his Rolex. This is what it is. Okay? Get him under pressure. But how do you get him under pressure? Because here comes some other numbers that might say, shit, how do we do it? 7 touchdowns, no interceptions when he's under pressure still. Bastard. 7.9 yards per attempt. Versus the blitz, he's only been blitzed on 29.4% of his dropbacks. But when you blitz him, he completes 54.4% of his passes. So what does that tell you? That means you got to get pressure on him, but you can't do it with the blitz because he's going to find the open man. He's going to eat you alive. He's got 484 yards against the blitz, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's a sick number right there, my man. Basically, 50-50, right? You've got to get pressure on this guy, but you can't do it with the blitz because he will find the open receiver. He knows where to go with the football. The other thing about this guy is that I don't mention in the slides, he's very good throwing off platform. He's very good sliding in the pocket. And if he's got guys in his face, he's going to stay in there and he's going to throw that ball and he's going to be on target. All right. 10.1 yards per attempt against that blitz. That's tough. That's tough. And then if you don't blitz him, was that the answer? All right, let's not blitz him. Let's sit back and play coverage. 70.6% of his dropbacks have been against no blitz. 75.2% completion percentage. That means if you let him sit in that pocket, and you don't get in his face with that front four. So you're obviously going to have to blitz on occasion. You try to limit that. But if you can get home with the front four, that's the key. You got to get home with the front four, get in his face. But as we discussed earlier, he can run also. So you can't break down and get out of your rush lanes and get undisciplined. Because if you do, Drake's going to scoop. He's going to scramble. He's going to get loose. He's going to pick up yardage. Against that, no blitz, 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns. The 1 interception, but whatever. So this is my reaction to all that. Stop, please stop. I don't want to see any more numbers. I don't want to hear about this guy. I don't want to see this guy. If he gets off the bus, I'm going to cry. This is the challenge on Saturday. And this is one of the reasons why this game is so important, because not only are you in a critical situation here for the season, for fighting for, like I said, the soul of your team, the soul of your locker room, for the survival of this season, but you're doing it against an opponent that is basically geared to attack your weakest points with their offense. They are ready-made to put 90 points on your head the way they're constructed and because of what you're facing on their offensive side of the ball. So it's a challenge. One that if you overcome, can spearhead you and push you forward and elevate you to be able to get momentum to possibly win the Coastal. At least get back in the race. Let's talk a little bit about the man Josh Downs. All right. Let's see here. Josh Downs. Oops, excuse me. As I'm having a little technical issue again. Let's start it from right here. Josh Downs, this guy was a pain in the ass last year, if you all remember. He is not a big guy. He's fast, he's quick, he's athletic, and he's just a gamer, man. He's just a really good receiver. Right now, he's not doing a lot deep over the top, but he works the entire field. That's something they worked on this year. Last year, he was primarily an over the middle guy. He's still getting a lot of his catches over the middle because they like to run RPO glance with him. They'll run some post routes with him. They'll run some crossers, some shallow routes, some quick screens on for him. Just getting the ball in his hands, and that's all they need to do, really, because Josh Downs is a baller, and he's not a guy you want to mess with, right? So far this season, he's got 22 catches, 230 yards, 10.5 yards per catch. Not a big number, but he's consistent. All right, 4 touchdowns. That means anytime you throw it in his way, his direction, he's probably going to catch the ball. And these numbers are with 2 games that he's missed because of injury. Okay, so he's done this in 3 games: 22 catches, 230, 4 touchdowns. Let that sink in. He's been targeted 25 times thus far, and within those 25 targets, you know what? He's made plays. That means he's averaging about 8.3 targets per game. Oddly enough, I believe this number is below where he was last year in terms of targets. 80% of those targets have been between 0 and 19 yards. So he's not really working the 20-plus range this year. They're keeping him underneath, just getting the ball in his hands and letting him make plays afterwards. 137 yards have come in the center of the field. So again, they are moving him around. They're trying to get him balls all over the place. But most of his yardage is coming, 60% of his yardage is coming from routes that break into the center of the field and where he catches the ball in the center of the field. Now, Josh Downs is not the only show in town, okay? This guy right here, Bryson Nesbitt, tough tight end, athletic as shit. This is what you imagine Elijah Arroyo could be, although he's a little bigger than Arroyo. He's 6'6", 245. Arroyo's about 6'3", 6'4", 230 in that range. But anyway, he's got 14 catches, 237 yards, 3 touchdowns. He leads the team in receiving yards, okay? For the first time ever, actually since at least under Mac Brown and Phil Longo, this is the first time they've had like a real receiving threat at tight end. The last real big-time receiving threat I can think of from North Carolina was like Eric Ebron, I believe it was, who murdered the Hurricanes. But this guy's legit. He's athletic. He's physical. He can run. He can block. He's tough to deal with. Also, to show you some of his athleticism, he's caught all 3 targets that have been thrown his way in the 20-plus range. So he's got 3 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown in that 20-plus range. That means he's getting vertical. That means he's getting down there. He's got the speed to run downfield and make plays. The average depth of those targets is 22.2 yards. So he's getting it right at that 22-yard mark. He's not flying vertical down the sideline, but he is getting upfield, crossers, posts, that kind of thing, getting that ball in 20 yards down the field and making a play with it. He's got 10 targets in the 10 to 19-yard range. He's got 6 catches in that area for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. Again, this guy's a receiving threat. He's good in the run game and blocking too. Not great, but his athleticism as a tight end is very dangerous and adds to the versatility of this Carolina offense. I think this year's offense for Carolina is more versatile than last year's. And I would say if they get the running game going, it's going to be more versatile, more dangerous than it was 2 years ago with those 2 running backs in Diami Brown and Sam Howell, all those guys. Antoine Green, here's another guy. Don't sleep on Antoine Green, because if you do, he's probably going to run right by you. Why? 7 catches, 209 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's averaging 29.9 yards a catch. That's a lot. It's a lot of yards per catch. All right? My man is running by dudes. And all this after missing 3 games. So he's only played 2 games. 209 yards, 3 touchdowns. All right? This guy is a deep threat. This guy right here, you know what we call this guy? We call this guy the DJ Ivy killer. This is the poison pill for DJ Ivy. If this guy lines up in front of DJ Ivy, I do not want to see DJ Ivy within 15 yards of this man. I do not want to see, I don't care what the coverage is. You cannot line up. DJ Ivy needs to line up as a safety if this guy's lined up in front of him. Because even if he runs a hitch, he's still going to be there late. Okay? Got to get this guy, keep this guy in front of you if you can. Because if he gets down the sideline, if he gets upfield, if he's open vertically, he's gone. Okay? 6 of those 12 targets that he's received this season are in that 20-plus range. They love to use him as a deep threat. 4 catches for 181 yards and 3 touchdowns there. So as you can see, right, that this is what they use him. 181 of his 209 yards and all 3 touchdowns have been deep shots to this guy. And how do you know they're really deep shots? Well, his average depth of target, meaning when he catches the ball, is 34.8 yards down the field. Now, remember, this isn't 34.8 yards in the air to the hands. This is from the line of, they're measuring from the line of scrimmage. So the quarterback takes his drop. So you're adding about another 10 yards. So he's really catching the ball about 45 yards downfield from what the quarterback did. The UNC rushing attack is not as great as it was 2 years ago, but they do have some talented backs. The main feature back thus far has been Omarion Hampton, although Caleb Hood started last week against Virginia Tech. Omarion Hampton has 56 carries, 293 yards, averaging just over 5 yards a carry, has 5 touchdowns. He's got 11 runs of 10 or more yards. So he could spring it. 3.83 yards per contact. He's not an easy guy to bring down. Most of his attempts, or the most attempts, in terms of his yardage are concerned, 18% of his attempts, but 92 of his yards have come in that mid-left A-gap area, which is basically between the guard and the center on the left side. That's where he likes to run it. So basically inside zone territory, if you will. Here you have Caleb Hood, 19 carries, 131 yards, 6.9 yards a carry, 3 runs of 10 or more yards, which is impressive considering he's only got 19 carries. 2 runs of 15 plus yards. That's also impressive, again, considering because he only has 19 carries. Now, regardless of whether or not UNC's running game is as good as it used to be, I'm going to discuss later why it's important that they stop the run in this game. But let's move on. Oh, look at what we have here. The Hog Mollies, the offensive line for North Carolina. You're going to see a very familiar name here. in this little roundup. It's not Ed Montilus, unless, Ed Montilus sounds kind of like a weekend anchor. It might have been in the movie Anchorman. Not quite sure. Well, anyway, Ed Montilus, number 63. He's probably the weakest offensive lineman on this team. He's got a 54.6 run blocking grade, a 42.1 pass blocking grade. So if anybody is over Ed Montilus, please make a play. Leonard Taylor, this is your time to feast. Darrell Jackson, time to feast. Anybody over Ed Montilus, let's make some plays, all right? The offensive line is given, well, my man here is giving up 14 pressures and 2 sacks. That's Ed Montilus, okay? He's giving all that. Number 65, Corey Gaynor is the most consistent offensive lineman on this team. Let that sink in. The most consistent offensive lineman is Corey Gaynor, our former center. He's got a 60.3 run blocking grade, 75.5 pass blocking grade. He's given up 0 sacks and only 1 pressure thus far this season. Their pass blocking this year is much improved at North Carolina. Last few years, Sam Howell's running for his life. They weren't great in pass blocking. They were a better run blocking unit. This year's kind of flipped. Their tackle, Asim Richards, as you can see, 55.3 run blocking grade. But he's got an 81.4 pass blocking grade, has not given up a sack and only given up 3 pressures. So they can lock it down in terms of the pass protection, which is why Drake May has the ability to get that ball downfield and make some plays. The UNC defense, the vaunted UNC defense. What do we got to talk about here? As my man Buzz Lightyear is telling Woody, no defense. No defense anywhere. These guys aren't good. These guys aren't good, but neither's on offense right now. So let's take a look at the stats and see where we can take some advantage of them. That almost sounded disturbing. We'll keep it moving. They're giving up 257.8 yards passing per game. They're giving up 193 yards rushing. These dudes are almost giving up 200 yards a game rushing. This is the day. This is the time for Henry Parrish, Jalen Knighton, Thad Franklin, and the crew, or as Stephen A. Smith would say, and them, to get 250 plus rushing the football. 250 plus rushing the football. And that opens up what? Play action, bomb time. It's time to go all Uncle Rico on them after you get that running game going. They're giving up a total of 450.8 yards per game. That is not good. That is pretty bad. All right. They are giving up 33.6 points per game, which is tied for 113th in the football subdivision. Bowl subdivision. Right? Football bowl subdivision. Something like that. I don't know. FBS, CBS, ABC, TAS. I don't know. TDS, whatever it is. They are giving up 33.6 points per game. They're ranked tied for 113th in the country, basically, is what we're saying. Not good. Not good at all. So, what do they have on defense? Well, these are their edge rushers, Noah Taylor and Kymon Rucker. They are both decent. They're not bad. Noah Taylor's the one that flashed a little bit more. He's transferred over from Virginia. Although Kymon Rucker has 14 pressures to Noah Taylor's 12. They both have 3 sacks. They seem to be a little bit higher on Noah Taylor in terms of his skill set, but they're both dangerous edge rushers. Not great against the run, but they're good in pass rush. This might be their best defensive player. Number 33, linebacker, Cedric Ray. Cedric leads the team with 39 tackles. He's got a 61.3 run grade, 77.0 coverage grade, which means my man can not only come up and make the play, he's average against the run, but he can get back in coverage, so he's not bad. Now, here's a guy you want to go after, all right? And forgive the name because his name is the opposite of what he actually is. His name is Power Echols. Power has given up 20 catches for 174 yards and 4 touchdowns at linebacker. I'm looking at you, Will Mallory. I'm looking at you, Jalen Knighton, Henry Parrish. All right, Jaleel Skinner if you get in there. Khalil Brantley if you get in there. Anybody that's working against my man Power. I don't care if you like the show or not. Go after this guy. Get him. This guy cannot cover, as evidenced by the numbers here. Not only can he not cover, he cannot support the run. So if we see 23, run at 23. He's got a 49.0 run defensive grade. And he's missed 7 tackles this season in 5 games, which for UM standards is not a lot. They'd probably be starting for us with those kind of numbers. 59.0 coverage grade. Again, not the best in coverage. So you got to go after Power. You got to go after this guy. And immediately, you got to check to him in run situations and in pass situations. If you see him, they probably try to cover up. This is why his pass rush grade is an 85 here. He's got an 85.0 pass rush grade. The reason why it's probably so high and they use him a lot in pass rush is because they want to avoid having him in situations where he's actually going to defend the run, fill a gap, read a key and go make a play. They'd rather just rush him, kind of like we do quarter flag on occasion, and have him make plays as a pass rusher as opposed to having to make plays as a linebacker. And their safety, Cameron Kelly. And I'm not talking about the Cameron from Dipset. He's got a 58.9 tackle grade, not a great tackler, 61.7 coverage grade, average in coverage. He's also missed 7 tackles. He's given up 6 catches for 124 yards. That's a 20.7 yards per catch average and 1 touchdown. So if there's ever a situation we got 9 and 23 lined up on the same side of the field, we are attacking them. All right? In the pass game, in the run game, whatever we do, go after 9, go after 23. Make them hide these dudes on the bench, in the locker room, tuck them under the grass, whatever they got to do. But if you see those guys, take advantage of them. And that's one of the things that this offense, I think, has not done well this season is find the matchups and attack the matchups. I think that's something that Lashley was better at so far than Gaddis has been, or was better at last year than Gaddis has been this year, so far this year, is finding the opportunities, the plays, and the schematic matchups where he has the advantage and attacking it until you make an adjustment, or we just keep boat racing with it. And you saw that a lot with the running backs, especially Jalen Knighton when Tyler Van Dyke took over. You saw him work Knighton against backers and put him in situations where he can get in space and make plays. And we haven't gotten enough of that in this offense thus far. UNC's corners. Let me tell you, if you thought DJ Ivey was bad, let me tell you, these guys, Carolina, would kill for DJ Ivey. Why? Look at my man, number 29 here, Storm Duck. And yes, I'm not kidding. That is his name, Storm Duck. Okay? He's given up 23 catches, 296 yards. That's 12.9 yards a catch, 4 touchdowns. As you see, I've highlighted DJ Ivey's numbers right there below, right here. DJ Ivey's given up 8 catches, 204 yards. That average is high, 25.5 yards and a touchdown, because mainly he gave up 1 touchdown for 98 yards. But if you want to talk about consistently bad, my man Storm Duck is consistently bad. My man Storm Duck is not a, 1 game, 98-yard touchdown kind of guy. My man Storm Duck is consistently bad. He's going to give it to you every game. He's going to give you that poor performance game in and game out. That's what he's about. Persistence, consistency, and being shitty. All right. Deandre Boykins, he's also given up 16 catches for 189 yards, 11.8 yards per catch and a touchdown. Neither corner is spectacular. Neither corner is all that great. Again, if you got the chance, off play action, or even a drop back, attack these dudes. My ideal start for this game would be, and I mentioned this on the Wide Right podcast with Manny in our last episode, which, by the way, if you haven't checked it out, please go check out Manny Navarro's YouTube, download it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever they have podcasts, and listen to our last episode where we discussed some of this stuff going into this game and the larger, broader picture stuff also about the team moving forward. But I think to give TVD confidence and to get him settled in, to make him feel back to being himself, first play of the game, I don't give a shit what the coverage is. I don't care what they're doing. I am calling a vertical route, throwing it down the field, letting TVD grenade that bitch. And go. And again, I'll say it again because I heard it in I think it was the NC State game that I was rewatching. Last year's NC State game, I was rewatching it, preparing for this to see some of the stuff that we were doing that were successful on offense. Seems like many moons ago. And the announcer actually said TVD was went all Uncle Rico on it, just letting it go, chucking it a quarter mile, right? So I think they need to open up the game that way. And I think they need to take 6 to 8 deep shots, and we'll talk about that later. So here's the main question, man. How do we contain Drake May? May we contain him? May Drake drop 600 yards on us and 6 touchdowns? I made this joke on Wide Right. Manny didn't get it, but I'm going to make it again. It's God's plan. God's plan. So 70% of his total yards come from that 10 to 20 yard range. He has obviously the deep shots that are concerning, and basically he sprays it all over the field. But for us, I think the key is try to make him throw the ball underneath. If you have to drop in cloud coverage, if you drop 7, 8, or if you play cover 4, if you play deep coverage, more of a prevent defense on occasion, not in and out, not every down, not in and out. Those also 3. But play more of a cover 4, play cover 3, play cover 2, but off, and make him throw the ball underneath as opposed to trying to take big shots or push the ball down the field past that 10 to 15 yard range. You want to have those. And at the same time, when he makes those throws underneath, you got to be secure in your tackling. You got to gang tackle. You got to run to the football, and you all got to get there to try and limit yards after the catch. As we said, he only completes 38.8% of his passes under pressure. Actually, that's the amount of times he's been pressure. He completes like 49% of his passes versus pressure, but he completes 54.4% versus the blitz. So again, like we talked about earlier, the front 4 is key to getting pressure on him. Try to limit the blitzes as much as you can. Avoid, bringing that extra body or 2 extra bodies, because if they pick it up, this guy's going to eat you alive. He's that good. And with those weapons on the outside with Josh Downs and Antoine Green and Nesbitt, they will get down the field in a hurry. All right. So the front 4 this week, the defensive line is going to be critical more than ever. This is the game the defensive line has to show up. This defensive line that's been hyped up all offseason. Excuse my burp. That's a lot. That's a Diet Coke, and I'm sorry. Should have gotten that out of my system before I started the podcast, but hey, it is what it is. This front 4 that's been talked about for so long, this depth at the defensive line, this is where it has to show up. This is the game that they earn their NIL checks. This is the game that they make a difference. They make an impact for this team. All right. They can get in Drake's May, they can get in Drake May's face. Again, I'm not an editing guy. I don't edit. You sit through the mistakes with me. We get through it together because that's how we do it, man. I'm not a perfect man. My wife definitely doesn't think so. I'm not a perfect man. None of us are. So let's deal with the mistakes, man. I'm not going to edit it out. Let it sit there. Let it hang for a while. So this is where they earn their pay. This is where they earn their keep. This is where they actually make an impact on the overall trajectory of the season. 67% of all attempts are in the middle of the field. We talked about that earlier. So we want to force the ball to the sideline. So not only do we want to make him throw underneath, we want to make him throw to the sideline. We want to crowd the center of the field and push him to throw the corner routes, try and get the ball down the field vertically in the corner routes, and try and throw the flats into the sideline, throw outs into the sideline, and try and make a play on a ball there. Maybe if he's got to go hash to hash or opposite field, especially with pressure in his face, he might put one up for grabs. Hasn't done that yet this season, only thrown 1 interception, but maybe that's how you get him to turn over the ball. Although they have been fumbling a lot in the run game. So watch that. If you could, this defensive line can also jar that ball loose on run plays and maybe try and when they're getting pressure on Drake May, get a strip sack. That'd be fantastic. Get us a shorter field and help us ignite the offense a little bit. But that's the way you got to force him to throw those balls to the sideline. I think, if you're going to make him throw vertically, if you're going to make him throw 20 plus yards down the field, you want him to throw it on corner routes. And the reason you say that is because you have an extra defender in the sideline. Not only do you have your secondary back there, but now you have the sideline to act as an extra defender and walls off the receiver, making the margin for error that much smaller. Also force him to throw the offense is right. For some reason, his completion percentage is lower to that side. So do what you can. Do not lose him on scrambles. As we talked about, this guy gets loose. If you miss him, you turn your back to him, he's going to scoot, he's going to pick up first downs, and he's going to make athletic plays. All right, how do we contain the rest of the UNC offense? You got to play more zone and avoid being in man-to-man, because then you're going to have your back turned and Drake May is going to go, or you're going to get beat, roasted, toasted by Antoine Green, or shook by Josh Downs, or shook by Byron Nesbitt. Okay? You got to play more zone this game, and you got to be disciplined in it. You got to keep everything in front. You cannot give up explosive pass plays against this team. If you give up explosive pass plays, chances are you're not going to be able to get them down. You're not going to live to play another play. You're going to get beat, and they're going to score on you. Stop the run. This is why I mentioned stopping the run. Even though it's the Drake May show, they struggled against Notre Dame to run the ball, and they weren't able to get it going offensively. That was their worst offensive game of the season. They only got 66 yards on 28 attempts. So when the run game isn't working for Notre Dame, for North Carolina, they are not the same offense, because they are predicated upon, having the zone action reads, zone read action, play action, and using that, incorporating that into their system. and not having to put it all on the quarterback. Okay, that makes a huge difference for them. Even last year, you saw when Sam Howell had to put it up 40, 50 times a game, they weren't as effective as when they had a little bit more balance to their offense. They got to stay, the Hurricanes have to stay disciplined in the run fits and maintain gap integrity. We talked about that. That is going to be key in stopping the run. Don't lose contain on zone reads. So don't be aggressive coming down the line on zone reads on the backside. You got to stay with Drake May. Make sure you keep your eyes on him. Georgia State and Notre Dame both slowed him down. They only gave up 15 and 36 yards respectively. And those were the only 2 games of the season where this team has scored under 40 points and collected under 500 yards of offense. So again, the run game is key, and controlling Drake May in the run game is especially key. Make them drive the field. So don't give them quick pops, quick explosive plays, quick scoring plays. Make them earn it. Make them drive and hold them to field goal attempts. Although their field goal kicker isn't bad, and he's like 4 for 4, I think, from 40 to 49 yards. I'd rather run the risk of him kicking field goals and I'll give up threes all day, as opposed to having big plays pop on me all game long. So again, their kicker is pretty good from 40 to 49 yards, 4 for 4. So once you're in that 30-yard range, once they get down to the 30, they're in scoring range. We got to watch that. And more importantly than most of this stuff, get off the field on third down. Do not consistently give up first downs on 3rd and long. Okay, this has been a problem for years now. Saw it against Michigan State last year where it was a killer. A couple times this year we've already seen it. 3rd and long, can't get off the field. 3rd and long has to be a money down, has to be a down where you shut the other team down, get them off the field, and take possession of the ball again, and have your offense start to grind it and run that clock down and shorten the game and shorten possessions. So how do we score in the UNC defense? Just show up, hopefully, right? Run the damn ball. I know a lot of people are not going to hear that, and a lot of people don't want to hear that. A lot of people aren't going to like that. But it's pretty obvious that you can run the damn ball on this team, and that happens to be so far, with the exception of Middle Tennessee, the strength of this football team, of the Miami Hurricanes, right? App State got 61 points on these dudes by running for 288 yards. Yes, Chase Bryce threw for 6 touchdowns, had a hell of a game, but it all started with that 288 yards rushing, because if they don't have that amount of yards rushing, he ain't going off for 6 touchdowns. I'm telling you that right now. Notre Dame got 45 points, most all season. Their offense was atrocious. Their quarterback had the best game of the season thus far, mainly because they rushed for 287 yards to take the pressure off of him. Okay? And why is running the damn ball so important, especially in this game? This is the game that the offensive line also, just like a defensive line, this is the game where the offensive line is going to have to earn those NIL checks. This is where they become critical to the success of the offense, because you have to be able to run the ball, which allows you to control clock, take possessions away from North Carolina, and keep that fast-paced offense on the sideline and frustrate. And it allows you to grind the game out at the end and grind out a win. Take what the defense gives you. These guys will not be playing press man very much, if at all. They're going to play off coverage. They're going to give you quick routes. Hit them with it. All right? Whatever they give you, take it. Okay? Suck them, then you suck them up with the run, then you hit them over the top of the play action. Unless it's the first play of the game, like I said. First play of the game, I don't give a shit where they're lined up. They could be lined up in the end zone. Hail Mary that bitch. I don't care. First play of the game, TVD, play action, or straight drop back. I don't care what it is. Fleet flicker, fake reverse pass, whatever you got to do. We're tossing that thing down the sideline. So take what they give you. They'll play off, take the quick hitters, move the chains, keep the ball moving. I think every play is important. Every possession is important in this game. Take 3 yards, take 4 yards, take 3 yards, take 5 yards, whatever it takes to keep the chains moving. Like I said, attack Cameron Kelly and Powers Echols when you see them in the run game, in the pass game. Whatever game they're playing, they could play playing Monopoly, Hungry Hippos, Parcheesi, whatever they're playing, whatever game they're playing, attack them. Play duck hunt, right? Attack, storm, duck. Play duck hunt. I know many of you did when you were kids. It's time to play that again. And Boykins. Now that wasn't as funny. And now when I'm looking at it, it's kind of dirty. And I apologize for that. I'm gonna give myself a fine of $5 for that one. I'm gonna put that in the Boink jar. Run at Noah Taylor. He's a great pass rusher, or a good pass rusher, not that great against the run, so we want to attack him as well. Let me tell you, if you see Cameron Kelly, Powers Echo, and Noah Taylor on one side of the field, you run that shit right at their ass. You got to use Jalen Knight. Jalen Knight is going to be available. Use him in the pass game. Get him carries, but mostly in the passing game. I want to see both these guys, Parrish and Knighton. If they're in the game together, it's a mismatch advantage for the Hurricanes. Because eventually somebody's going to have to line up on one of these two. A linebacker is going to have to line up on one of these two. A safety is not as good in coverage. as we've seen, is going to have to line up on these two and be responsible for them. Attack them. All right. Use these guys. Use your versatility in offense. Will Mallory needs to be available and to make the plays that are available to him. It's hit and miss with him. He's not a great blocker. So the only advantage we have with Will Mallory is athleticism and his ability to be a pass receiver. And when he's up and down, it's a problem. He needs to be the man. Okay. This is a game where he needs to step up as well. And come on, man. TV, you got to let it rip, bro. There's no easy way out. All right. Like the Rocky IV song. There's no easy way out. There's no shortcut home. A little karaoke for you. He's got to let it rip. There's nothing left to do, man. All right. You got to face Drago. You got to do it. You got to say, hey, I'm doing this for Apollo. All right. I should have thrown the towel in sooner, but I didn't. It's my fault. I take all the responsibility. Now it's my time to get back in the lab. Right. Start running through that snow. Start carrying those logs. Start pulling that ox thing. Doing whatever you got to do. Sit up some 50 feet in the air for no reason. But you got to do what you got to do to make this thing happen. Whatever it takes to win, it takes to win. And you got to let it go, man. Let it go. Like Elsa and Frozen or some prune juice. Let that shit go. All right. I want to see 6 to 8 deep shots in this game, at least. I want to see 6 to 8 deep shots because you have to make them respect that. And you have to give TV the confidence in himself that he can still make those throws. Use the play action to hit big shots because you're going to have the run game available to you. I'm telling you, if this team shows up like they're supposed to, this offensive line shows up like they showed up in every single game up until Middle Tennessee, they will be able to run for 250 plus. And there comes the play action right after that. Bang, over the top. So my prediction, yes, a shocker. I'm score predicting today, and I'm giving it to the Canes because this is the type of game that throughout my time as a frustrated Miami Hurricanes fan, especially the last 15 years or so, probably 15. This team drops games that they're not supposed to, and they look like their season is going to go right in the tank. And they pull out a win out of their ass on occasion that nobody expects them to pull out, right? Now, it's not a major win against a top 5 team or something like that, but they'll beat a Florida. They'll beat a North Carolina State last year. They'll beat Pitt last year. They'll beat teams like that when they're not supposed to win. In situations where their back's against the wall, this team somehow, for some reason, ends up, pulling one out. And I believe this is this year's rabbit in the hat. I don't expect it against Clemson, but I expect it this week. I think they can do it this week because this defense for North Carolina is so atrocious that this team can move the ball and score points. And if they do, if they win this game, I'm telling you, could spearhead the rest of the season, could give them the momentum they need to fight for the Coastal title and at least make that Clemson game respectable and give them the certainty that they can compete on any level and sort of push away that Middle Tennessee loss as just, a hiccup because you thought your shit didn't stink. And guess what? It stunk. Bad. All right. So there we have it. I'm predicting Canes 34, Carolina 31, and we shall be victorious this Saturday. Not because I'm a homer. I'm not a Homer Simpson. I am. But because I truly believe, based on the numbers and the things I've seen, this Carolina team is great on offense. The Hurricanes could slow them down a little bit. They can win this one. I'm telling you guys. All right. Thank you guys for joining me again. Please tell everybody to subscribe. If you're watching the video right now, please subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit that like button. Give me your score prediction in the comments. Here on YouTube, send me a tweet. My Twitter handle is at elledo1307. Let me see if I can pull some stuff up for you here. I will bring up a slide with my socials. I know this is very excellent podcasting here, as I am basically breaking the podcast to be able to do some typing. But I really appreciate all the interactions that I've had with you guys, all the comments, all the follows, all the recent views of my videos. It's been really humbling, and I really appreciate that you guys have enjoyed everything I'm doing so far on the channel and have been doing on the podcast. And those of you that don't, that's fine too. And I appreciate that because at least you're watching to hate me. And I love it. I love the hate. Make sure, as I said, to follow, to subscribe to this YouTube channel, to follow me on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find podcasts. When you see it's the MIA All Day podcast, and I'm going to put that here. And it's the one with the white logo right now, the white, orange, and green logo. That's the new podcast site. Make sure to follow there because I switched podcast distributors and there's been a little bit of a breakdown of people receiving their podcasts or getting notifications for us. And make sure you sign up for notifications again. And I'm going to give you my wife's Instagram. This is not for nefarious purposes, my friends. This is for you guys to order some stuff if you like the polo. I don't know if it's underscored or not, but Love and Light Tour. There you have it. Let me expand this and I will put it on camera for you guys to see. And again, I'm very humbled, very appreciative of everyone participating. I want to see more comments on the YouTube videos. Got a lot of views, but we need more comments. I want to interact with you guys, and I promise to respond to the comments. I do read them. I do give the thumbs up every once in a while, so you guys can see that if you have left a comment. And if you want to send me a DM on Twitter, that's good as well. I interact with a lot of people via DM, and we share insight back and forth. We just share stories. You just ask me quick questions, and I'm more than happy to answer because dude, this is fun. This is not my job. I'm not a journalist covering a team like Manny Navarro. I'm just a guy who's fortunate enough that got put on by his boy, by Manny Navarro, who's got a platform and 25 plus years experience in the business, who felt confident enough to bring me on and tag team with me and have me tag team with him, really, so we can just have some fun on the show. And it's been great so far. Here are the socials. That's my Twitter handle at elledo1307, at MIA All Day. That should be pod. The podcast, of course, the MIA All Day podcast. And there's my wife's Instagram handle, Love and Light Couture. Again, yeah, Manny's been he's kind of like the Adam Sandler of podcasting, allowing me to get on there with him and enjoy this ride with him. So, and I'm thankful for you guys to sit here and listen to me all this time and go through all this crap with me and listen to my breakdown, because really you have no reason to, and I appreciate it. I really do. So thank you guys. Have a good evening, and we will see this Canes 34-31 victory on Saturday, baby. Calling it. Go Canes.